ancestors went to war with the government right here on these same grounds to protect our fishing rights and to protect this river.
You know, I say hopefully putting our lives on the line here has helped us in our fight to keep our water, to keep our salmon, to keep our way of life. We fight for the freedom of all natives to have our native food.
These people thought there are only indigenous people left on Earth. And it's easy to feel like that sometimes. So we have to find other people like us, to find other people who can benefit from the work that we're doing. Because when we come together, it's acknowledging that there's people out there all over the world that are fighting for their resources and their rights to live healthy lifestyles.
I also want to say that there is pushback against this position I am taking, that in this multicultural zeitgeist, there has emerged a field of post-colonial theory, which seeks to deconstruct Western assumptions of reality in favor of cultural constructivism. Cynical Theories, which is a really great book, really goes into this radical Marxist movement in our academia, science, pop culture, has an entire chapter on post-colonial theory. This postmodernist push in academia in our universities, which seeks to deconstruct science as not the sole linchpin of conceptualizing objective science and reconstruct it using cultural accounts, which may not fit within, measuring discrete behavioral units, like I've talked about, intuition. This idea is most famously espoused by Edward Said in his seminal book, Orientalism, which denotes that the framework we have for Eastern or other exotic non-Western cultures is itself a product of a Western discourse, and as such, we have to do away with it and decolonialize everything, including psychology, right? I know personally my higher education rarely, if ever, speaks about the war on drugs, the military-industrial complex, the complicated history of psychology through something like the eugenics movement, and the subjugation of poor people who are disproportionately diagnosed and medicalized. If these are mentioned, it's only in relation to white privilege and not the abstract power games that we all play in, right? The fact that me, being a second generation immigrant who comes from a non-college educated background, I am much more privileged in a sense, having given access to diagnosed children, which I can use to fundamentally alter the trajectory of their lives, right? That's a very higher order level of privilege that isn't talked about, right? And I'm going to allude to that later, and that's the moral angle which Indigenous psychology approaches, but that's missing in mainstream psychology.
Cheswick, you're voluntary?
Mm-hmm.
Scanlon? Billy, for Christ's sakes, you must be committed, right?
No.
Okay. You're just a young kid. What are you doing here? You ought to be out in a convertible, bird dogging chicks and banging beaver. What are you doing here, for Christ's sake? What's so funny about that?
Well,
Jesus, you guys do nothing but complain about how you can't stand it in this place here, and then you haven't got the guts just to walk out? What do you think you are, for Christ's sake? Crazy or something?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're not. You're not. You're no crazier than the average asshole out walking around on the streets, and that's it. Jesus Christ, I can't even believe it.
And I want to mention Cynical Theories and that rebuttal because that's not the angle I'm approaching this paradigm of Indigenous psychology. That psychology needs to completely decouple itself from neurobiology or any other hard science. That's nonsensical. That won't happen. What I am endorsing is something along what Carl Jung endorsed, a much broader framework for psychology, which is not a hard science. It is a metaphysical and philosophical speculation on the nature of human behaviors, which uses equal parts science, intuition, corroboration, spirituality, Gnosticism, and whatever other methodology we as human beings have to gain access to deeper layers of what the fuck existence even is. And if we only use science in that calculation, an amoral, objective, empirical purview, in a profession where our jobs are to illuminate the souls of human beings suffering and bring moral order to people's lives, there is an entire litany of wisdom we have missed from the first people.
When we first started this project, we talk about capitalism. We talk about how today's society is based upon how much money you make. And our people never measured our standards that way.
You open a whole part of your mind to something else. You're open to the air, the sun, the weather, the rain, and it's just beautiful. Our elders have introduced me to so many plants from the first season, spring, all the way to winter. It's never Taco Tuesday. You can taste it now.
Whoa! So let's continue with another difference between an indigenous approach to psychology and mainstream psychology. So we showcase the actualization model using a relational or interdependent framework rather than a linear process. This Western approach highlights the stages achieved more than the processes of achieving them. For example, the Jean Piagetian model of cognitive and moral development from sensory-motor to formal operational offers a predictable trajectory of children being cognitively immature and uncritical thinkers towards becoming burgeoning young adults who use empirically based observations to assimilate and accommodate new data. From an indigenous perspective, there is much more ambiguity and complexity on our human development, such as in this medicine wheel framework concept, which seeks to maintain balance, harmony, connectedness, and wholeness within one's life space to benefit the community. Even in an Islamic paradigm, children are seen as being much closer to their true spiritual essence or fitrah than adults are. So from a relational perspective, an adult may be more cognitively mature, intellectual than a child, but lesser in spiritual development, or spiritual wonderment even. And Richard Katz has this great example of one sign of cognitive development is seeing whether children still endorse that the moon follows them as they walk around, right? This is right. As they develop a theory of mind, they're able to say, okay, the moon is in place, it's not following me around. But through an indigenous model, the moon offers as a powerful spiritual force. So although a child or even an adult may not endorse the moon physically following them, it can still spiritually follow them, right? It can be an anchor for us, the moon spirit, right? Giving us hope, guidance, nurturance in times of our life where we're at our most dark.
The moon spirit is in trouble. I owe the moon spirit my life.
What do you mean?
When I was born, I was very sick and very weak. Most babies cry when they're born, but I was born as if I were asleep, my eyes closed. Our healers did everything they could. They told my mother and father I was going to die. My father pleaded with the spirits to save me. That night, beneath the full moon, he brought me to the oasis and placed me in the pond. My dark hair turned white. I opened my eyes and began to cry, and they knew I would live. That's why my mother named me Yue, for the moon.